Hey guys, I am back today and I've got a really fun topic for you. So today we're talking about the ideal woman. And this is going to be a video that will take into account both my Eastern heritage and my Eastern values, as well as the Western range that I've been lucky enough to learn and embody being born and raised in the US. So this is going to be that really high value marriage between Eastern principles and Western culture and ways of being. So the first place I want to start is I have this paper and it's my notes for this video, but it also represents my life. So what I've done is I've taken this notebook paper and I have folded it in half. And on one side, I have written out the things that I have learned from being born into a Pakistani/Indian family. I've mentioned in my previous video on why we don't marry for love, which I will link in the description box for you guys, that I was born in 1980 to Pakistani Indian immigrants, and I am the first US born from both sides of my family. So I've had to overcome some challenges based on that, and now a couple months away from my 40th birthday, I have finally come to a place where I feel really well integrated in both aspects of those, and of course I'm still learning and growing. So I folded this paper, and on this side I've got all of the Eastern values that I've learned from my culture, and on this side I have all of the Western values that I've learned from the American culture. And when you put them together, in my humble opinion, this is the ideal woman. This is the ideal woman that I strive to be, and this is the woman that I pray that my daughter ends up being and embodying, and that my sons marry one day. So obviously there is no perfection, there's only growth and moving in the right direction moment to moment. So let's talk about these values. It is more of a holistic approach, because one of the things that I've learned, which I would say is the foundation of this video, is that if you look at only the Eastern values and the Eastern culture, I don't think you can be a complete whole woman. And if you look at just the Western culture, I also don't think that I would be a complete whole woman. It is this intimate and often difficult marriage between those two, polar opposite in some ways cultures that make the ideal woman in my eyes. Now, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that from the Western eyes, the Eastern world can seem primitive. But in fact, I believe over my 40 years of embodying this work myself, my own journey, it's the Western world that's still primitive. It's still new. It's still figuring things out. Not to say that there isn't room for improvement in the Eastern world. So let's talk about that. So from my Eastern culture, I learned the value of being a woman and what that looks like in everyday life from moment to moment. Unfortunately, I didn't really learn that from the Western culture, but what I did learn from the Western culture, which is on the other side of my paper, is how to transcend my gender's and culture's limitations. And so this is the way that is balanced. I imagine myself on this seesaw, and I have balanced out what it means to be a woman and to really enjoy being a woman, while also transcending that limitation from the Western world. So those are the two things that have really helped me balance that out. So let's move to number 2. Okay, so number 2, from my Eastern culture, I learned family values and how to respect tradition, how to respect elders, how to respect family culture. And on the other side, from my Western culture, I learned the importance of boundaries, that just because someone shares blood with me or DNA does not mean that they have the right to infringe on my human rights or push my boundaries or make me feel guilty for saying no to certain things. And again, this is one of those things that I think in the Eastern culture, it's gone a little bit too much in the other direction, where you almost feel like you have no individual say and you are just part of this collective. And oftentimes family members can take advantage of that, make you agree to doing things, putting you in situations that just don't work for you. And so because of this unique opportunity of knowing the Pakistani Indian culture, but also being born in the Western world, I have learned that I can respect my family and my elders and the tradition and the culture while still standing true to my boundaries. And healthy Pakistani Indian families actually know this. I am in this beautiful place now where I'm surrounded by really, really healthy Pakistani and Indian families, where the man is the head and the woman is the neck, as they said in the what was that movie? It's that I'm totally blanking out on the name. My crazy Greek family wedding, something like that. You guys remember that movie? I see this playing out where modern day Indian and Pakistani women who have learned to balance out, their culture and the respect and the tradition with also having boundaries. It's just this really beautiful marriage between those two things. The third thing I would like to integrate is, from the Eastern culture, I've learned the concept of oneness, that collectively we are so much more stronger than we are as an individual. And from my Western culture, I've also learned my right to be an individual. Now, I do want to mention that each of these qualities on its own, whether it's the Eastern or Western, has shadow sides. So don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to over glorify any one culture or any one attribute. So for example, when I think of the word individual and I think of the Western culture, what comes to mind as a shadow is this whole entitlement, right? And we see this in this world right now with COVID. We're in the era of COVID, people going into Costco or other places of business and then throwing fits for not wanting to wear a mask. Like, you would not necessarily, see that in the Asian world so much, because we understand that sometimes you need to respect other people's place of business and their home, like their house, their rules. And as a culture, generally, we don't have that so much in the Asian world, which I really, really value, because it doesn't matter whether masks are right or wrong. If that is someone's house or their place of business and that is their requirement for your entry, you either choose not to enter or you put on the damn mask, So this is, again, that beautiful balance that I've learned. Number 4 is, from the Eastern world, I've learned to know my core values. What are they? And what do they actually look like in my life? And this doesn't mean that I try to fit in any mold or try to take on someone else's values or judge someone else's values. Simply, what are my values right now, and what do they actually look like, and what do I stand for, and how do I model this every day? And to balance this out from the Western culture, I've also learned that I can be anyone or anything that I want. And so that's, again, that beautiful marriage, because I don't have to be stuck in any one role or any one value, and that I can make it my own, and I can create a new value, a new structure, a new culture, a new tradition, and I can modify it and I can use it as a template. And I think, are you already starting to see that if you're only living in the Western world energetically, something's missing? And if you're only living in the Western world, something's missing, and you are really scared, because without those core Eastern values, the Western world can be really scary to navigate. I have a really strange example of this, 2 really strange examples. So have you ever encountered a vegan that was so passionate about animal rights that they were almost homicidal against human beings? it's kind of scary, right? I had this woman just go ballistic and start attacking me on social media because she thought that the rug that I had bought from Ross for $20 was a actual fur rug. And in her hatred towards me, she wasn't understanding when I was saying, babe, it's a faux fur rug from Ross for 20 bucks. Like, calm down, right? But it's that extreme. If you ever go on any one extreme on any end, you look scary. It's really a scary place to be. A second example I have of this is the extreme feminist, right? If you're so concerned about my rights, why am I afraid of you? Right? Like, where's the balance? And so that's that beautiful marriage of having harmony and balance in your life. I did a video a long while ago, which I will post in the description box, on how we need both femininity, Eastern, and feminism, Western. And we need that harmony and that balance somewhere in the center range, somewhere in the neutral field, rather than being on any one extreme. Okay, so let's talk about 5. Number 5, from my Eastern culture, I've learned the concept of selflessness, how to be a part of the whole, and that not all of my needs need to be met in that moment for something to be complete or blissful or exactly how it needs to be. And to balance that from my Western culture, I've also learned self-care. Now, the shadow of that is too much self-care can sometimes almost be selfish, but there's this balance between being selfless and also having healthy self-care so that you can be selfless, right? So you can be this beautiful, healthy part of the whole. Number 6 is, from the Eastern culture, I've learned silence, calmness, and patience, which I think are just such beautiful core human principles, and I think also a part of the feminine at times. But from the Western, what's really helped me balance this out so that it doesn't become, like doormat status, is how to have my voice and how to communicate with healthy communication skills. That, you guys know, that's what my background is in. And I think that it's such a beautiful balance because you can still have stillness and calmness and patience on the inside and be able to communicate with your energy, with your presence, and with your words, but that words are not everything, right? Remember that only 7% of communication is verbal, and everything else is nonverbal communication. How you're showing up, your energy, your patience, the resonance and the frequency that you're giving out. Okay, so number 7, I would say, is probably one of my, they're all important, but love this one. It's my favorite, and you will know it as soon as I talk about it. But before I do that, just want to quickly mention that if you're new here, subscribe. That would make me really happy if you were part of my community. And also, if you want to start your inner work journey, my programs are based on both Eastern and Western principles like spirituality, science, psychology, sociology, all of that energy work, and all of the masculine, feminine polarity, that beautiful Eastern and Western marriage. I have placed some links to some other videos that you may enjoy, like my video on Loveless and why we don't marry for love, and also on feminism versus feminine energy, as well as my programs, some of the links to them. If you're ever confused on which program to take first, or if you're looking for one-on-one coaching, you can always email me. It's in the description box. And I only check my email a couple times a week, so just be patient if you email me and you don't hear back from me right away. So number 7 is, what I've learned from my Eastern culture is to bloom where I am planted. And this is this beautiful space that my mother clearly modeled for me and also explained to me so beautifully, and it's something that I really hold dear to my life. So my mom always said that whatever your cards are, whatever you're dealt, make that the thing that you wanted in the first place, right? So the example of this is that if you're married, make marriage the thing that you dearly wanted and make that the thing that you desire and want. If you're divorced or if you're not married, make being single the best thing that you wanted and make, like rock it. She had a friend whose daughter-in-law, was having trouble conceiving. And when she would come to my mom's office, she would often be sad and down and, be in this place of like, why can't I conceive this baby? I remember this one time she was telling my mom that all of her friends and cousins were pregnant and she always felt awkward going to their baby showers and things. And my mom was like, you know what? Put on a really tight sari or like a really tight dress, get really dolled up and waltz in there showing off your beautiful figure. And while everyone else is pregnant, you got your nice shapely body. But I remember when I was pregnant with my first son and I had gained 70, 80 pounds and I was like, oh my God, right? I'm a fairly short woman, put on all this weight. And my mom was like, you are pregnant. There's so many women out there, that would love to be in this situation. You've got this shapely body and this beautiful tummy, and rock it. Wear clothes that make you look even bigger. And when I put those two and two things together, that is that beautiful space of no matter what happens to me, that's what I wanted and that's the best thing and I'm gonna love it and I'm gonna rock it, right? So for example, another example, if your household income is on the lower side and you are in the position of like having to stretch your dollar, why not play with minimalism and, enjoy that and rock it and have a simple, beautiful home and go really deep with all of your experiences. But if your household income is higher and you've got all this fun, disposable money, then enjoy some different luxuries that you can buy and experience. So in this mode, there's literally nothing bad that can ever happen to you because no matter what you're presented with, you are going to make romance with that. That is going to be the best thing that you could ever experience. And life is just going to be bliss because you're looking at God and you're saying, okay, so this is the hand that I'm dealt with right now, and I'm gonna play the best hand possible. And the funny thing with being in that mode is that that's where all your desires actually come from or flow from because you're in this place of no resistance. So I have done this in so many aspects of my life where no matter what situation I've been in, that's the best situation to be in. The house that I have is the best house. The body that I have is the best body. The situation I'm in is the best situation. And anytime I've lost my footing on that, the minute I went back to it, the minute I just started romancing it and blooming from there, life has just fallen into place. So don't worry about perfection. We all lose our footing sometimes, but just get back into that space. And I promise you, life is just beautiful. And remember that this isn't about comparing to someone else. It's just about loving what you have and wanting what you already have. So it's not like, haha, I'm in this situation, but it's just like, these are the cards that God has dealt me, and I'm gonna play the best game possible. Okay, now to balance that out, on the Western side, what I've learned is that I am creating my own reality and that I have full personal responsibility to create any situation that I want, and that life and people are simply mirrors. And this marriage is a beautiful marriage because you could completely take personal responsibility for whatever experiences, people, places, things show up, while also blooming exactly there. And that is this beautiful place of non-resistance, magic, and bliss. And, as I feel like this is really a really important part of my life. And I know that I've been doing these videos on the East meets West because I'm filming this in September, and in November I turn 40, and I feel like it's such an important place for me where I'm just kind of taking inventory of my entire journey of my life And I've been having some really delicious conversations with my kids on the beautiful things that I've learned from my culture and also what I've learned from the Western culture. My kids are now second generation American born. So, you know, they're very curious about certain things from the Pakistani Indian culture, which they didn't get to experience. And I'm just learning now that I guess I'm integrating, really fully nailing it in, that whoever I am today is because of this beautiful marriage between the East and the West. And this is where I think we are headed now as a collective. We have this thing in both cultures where the East looks at the West and, you know, has certain negative perceptions and beliefs. That's thunder. I don't know if you guys can hear that. And then the West looks at the East and thinks, oh, they're old-fashioned and they're primitive. But we need both. I think the West represents masculine energy and the East represents feminine energy, and we really just need to integrate the both together to have a beautiful marriage and harmony on the planet. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, all of the links to my High Value Worthy Women program, the other videos I mentioned, and everything else is linked in the description box. Side note, off topic, but I've been really enjoying watching Married at First Sight on Netflix. I did not know about this show. One of my friends messaged me and said, you have to watch this, Mina. It's so related to your topic that you did on Love at First Sight. Or I'm sorry, We Don't Marry for Love. And Irfan and I started watching it. We're obsessed with it. It's so good. So if you want to see how arranged marriages can look like in the American culture, in the Western world, definitely check it out. Especially those women out there that think that men don't want marriage, or that we have to convince men to get married, or we have to like lock them in. Watch this show. You're going to love it. It's called Married at First Sight, and you can find it on Netflix. I believe it's on YouTube too. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.